Tulsi Gabbard's my girl. I'm voting for.
This is Progressive Soapbox. I am Jamarl Thomas. I'm your host. I had an awesome show with George Galloway today. So I have the interview. This is not one of those things that's taking place into the future. Now I just need to process it and upload it. This was on Skype, so we didn't have the ability to kind of do it live. Fuck it, we do it live. So this one is kind of a quick heads up. And I like this one. This one brings me a certain degree of joy. Tulsi Gabbard has picked up a major endorsement. Now, I know people might say, dude, that's not a major endorsement. I would disagree. In fact, I think this endorsement has a little bit more weight than many of the political endorsements that take place throughout the United States, especially from the standpoint of the mouthpiece or the megaphone that this person has. I'm talking about the gentleman behind me, one Mr. Joe Rogan. Tulsi Gabbard has been on Joe Rogan's show for an interview, and I remember I think they had like a 3-hour interview where he got to pretty much ask her about all sorts of things. And if you've ever watched a Joe Rogan interview, Joe Rogan goes everywhere. The interviews aren't necessarily structured in the way a political interview is. I've said before that Joe Rogan interviews can be, what's the word I'm looking for? Deceptively simplistic. And in doing so, some of the questions come across in a childlike way. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way. I mean that in almost somewhat of a complimentary way. They're basic. And one basic question leads to the next. And sometimes there are things that people in political circles take for granted just because it's in their bubble. One example was Barry Weiss comes on Joe Rogan and attacks Tulsi Gabbard. And Joe Rogan asks her the most basic questions that anybody would ask. Think that. Explain that to me. And what you found was she didn't know what she was talking about. But if she was talking to somebody that was part of the Washington consensus, they would have never even asked her what she was talking about, what she meant, because they would have assumed it already. They would have had a bipartisan consensus on things like war and peace, on issues like Israel. Just this host of issues. The Tulsi Gabbard breaks this kind of bipartisan consensus, especially on issues of war. The lefties that love her, in many respects, love her for that very specific reason. Tulsi Gabbard takes the perspective of, look, I'm for most of the stuff that Sanders is for. On the economic front and everything else, yes. But in order to do those economic things, you need to deal with these issues of war. If you don't deal with this issue of war, where there's a nearly $1 trillion military budget, that's only going to expand as Donald Trump wants to add this kind of space force and weaponizing space. And all of these weapons manufacturers are rubbing their nipples together on this notion of the amount of money that they're going to make in this new boondoggle. They want to weaponize space. This is the Green New Deal for space. Essentially just making, weapons contractors rich, putting a bunch of money in their pockets. Let's listen to Rogan talk about this. Because like I said, I was enamored to hear this. Come on.
For her, I decided. I like her. I met her in person.
Who is it? I don't know.
I give up. I'm not even paying attention to anything else. Tulsi Gabbard. Edge. What's that guy's name? Buttigieg.
Come on, Twitter.
What's his name?
Oh, yeah.
How do you say his name?
You got it.
Tulsi Gabbard's my girl. I'm voting for her. I decided. I like her. I met her in person.
Who is it? I don't know.
I give up. I'm not even paying attention to anything else. Tulsi Gabbard.
That's awesome. That's awesome. He says, I'm not even paying attention to anything else. That's my girl. I got her. And you know what's wild? This is with them hitting her as hard as they could possibly hit her to get her out of this race early on. She needs assistance to getting on that debate stage. There's so many Democrats now that are on the debate stage that they're, I guess I heard, cutting the number at 20 or something. And so the number of people who they needed to contribute has gone up. So if you have not contributed to Tulsi Gabbard, I'm not saying that that's your number one pick, but at the very least, don't you want her on that debate stage making the argument about war and peace that none of the other politicians, maybe short of Sanders, is going to bring up? And by the way, even if Sanders brings it up, Sanders has a larger focus on issues of domestic policy. So it is awesome to have somebody like her on that stage pushing him further to the left. I want it. If you want it, please consider helping her campaign. And by the way, I don't ask this for my own benefit. I don't necessarily get anything out of this other than just wanting to have the anti-war argument being made to the American public in the Democratic primary. And I am uncertain if that is going to take place if she's not there. Winkle the Bernie bro. Don't go spinning it in all places. Thank you, Winkle. I appreciate it. And I am pronouncing your name correctly. Winkle the Bernie bro. Environmental Coffee House. I contribute to Bernie and Tulsi. I do too. Edward Klein. Tulsi is kicking ass. I think she is too. But she doesn't get through the primary. I gotta be honest. I don't necessarily know if her goal is to win the presidency. If she's running in the race, I don't think she believes she can win it. But I think it's freedom. And in that freedom of not being able or believing that you can win it, to some degree, right? It's like Sisyphus trying to push the rock up the hill. It's like her goal in this may be something different. Her goal may be what Sanders' goal was in the last election. This idea of pushing a narrative, pushing what you want and your ideas into the political space. If by chance you catch fire, awesome. But at the very least, you need to be on that debate stage to even have the potential to win. I want her on that debate stage. Yes, Sanders is my horse, but I still want her on that debate stage. So I'm going to end this here because I don't necessarily want this to go long. Robert Douche. Robert Douche, here's the thing. Not everybody has the same objectives. Right? I mean, your objectives, I understand that the overarching objective is to win the presidency. That's true. In the context of that, though, you may have people who are in the race who don't believe that they have a chance of winning the presidency. So they have other objectives in being in the race, even though the overarching objective is the presidency. In her situation, no, I don't necessarily think she has technically, she has a chance from a probabilistic standpoint.